Yeah, we're back. All right. Uh, Interface analysis. Uh, what's an interface? An interface is in between what's happening in the back end and what you're doing. So the way you do things is basically what interface analysis is. UI, basically, user interface. Wow, look at that. Interface analysis is used to identify where, what, why, when, how, and for whom. If you look behind me, you see them? Who, what, why, where, how, and when. Been there for a fucking while. Anyways, and basically like the access points, right? Because like a website is the interface between you and the server, between you and the company. Solution components are across solution boundaries. Description: an interface is a connection between two components or solution. Most API is an interface, by the way. Like talking to talking to the servers is an interface. Talking to a database is a different interface. If you think of an office, every door is an interface. Every phone is an interface, right? Every message, every fax, every letter is an interface. It's a way to communicate. So, interface is a connection between two components or solutions. Most solutions require one or more interfaces to exchange information with other solution components. Organizational units or business processes. Interface types includes user interfaces, human user directly interacting with the solution within the organization. People external to the solution, such as stakeholders or regulators. How do you turn your generator on and off? You call the guy who's in charge of it, right? Technically, they're acting as an interface. Business processes are an interface in between. Whatever, it's the process. It's in between what needs to be done and and the output. That's the process that happens. So it's an interface. Data interface between systems, application programming interface, APIs, which are basically like functions that call and connect to different parts. And APIs range from like anything that's a function, that has a function is basically an interface. An API is an application programming interface, which is basically like, if I give you my name and it returns capital letters, that's an interface. If I give you my name and it returns a lot of data from like some server somewhere, from a database somewhere, that's also an interface. Any hardware devices, interface analysis defines and clarifies the following: who will use the interface, what information is being exchanged through the interface, as well as the volume of data, when information will be exchanged and how frequently, where the information exchange will occur. The idea is to kind of like see like, what are we doing, why do we need it, how do we need it, how many times do we access it. For example, how many times do you log into your Google account on a daily basis, for example, right? So like the login is an interface. You're kind of like logging in, and how many times. Well, they did it in a way where it's only monthly because they store your information on the browser, on the actual browser, whatever. If you're using Google or Safari or basically Brave or Firefox or whatever, where the information exchange will occur, why the interface is needed, and how the interface or how should be implemented. All of these are basically the analysis. Like, what do I need? For example, I'm a software engineer, or I software engineer. So what happens is I go around and I go like, okay, I am trying to connect this data point. For example, if we're doing data mining. So if I need this data point, I need it to go somewhere. So where do I call it from? How does it happen? And what do I do with it? And sometimes I want to get the data directly, or sometimes I want to do something with it and get the data directly. All of these need to be kind of like discussed. The early identification, not discussed, that's the clarity, right? That's the analysis. Like, do we need it or not? Because ultimately everything costs either money to build or something like this. And whatever, we're talking about interface analysis. It could be an interface that takes 5 minutes to build, or it could be something, for example, like, I don't know, like authorization of Google that took about like 5-6 years to build. And now you can use your own Google email in order to like connect to any to sign into any platform you have. You get it? Like, that's a big fucking interface that the world uses every single day. And it could be something as small as like, sign in and you get a password and you get a QR code or a code that's sent to your fucking like shit small. The early identification of interfaces allows the business analyst to provide the context for eliciting more detailed stakeholder requirements, thus determining adequate functional coverage of the solution to meet stakeholder needs. Early identification of interfaces reveals which stakeholders will benefit from or depend on the various components or the solution, which can help the business analyst determine which stakeholders should be present, or the other elicitation techniques. What's the solution? All right, so like there's the interface, there's the input, output, and then the message. And I think when they're saying here message is, it's kind of like I don't know, it's successful, it's not successful, you're missing this, you're missing that, whatever, right? Because like it's not just one thing. I could sign in with the wrong password. You need the interface to let me know that the password is wrong, right? What are the elements? Preparing for the identification. The business analyst can leverage other techniques such as document analysis, observation, scope modeling, and interviews in order to understand which interfaces need to be identified. A context diagram can reveal high-level interfaces between human actors, organizational units, business processes, or other solution components. Right, like I said, I could sign in to my Google account, or that's a small direct interface between me and Google. Or I can use my Google account to sign into a different website, which is basically something a bit bigger. So the result of this analysis can reveal how frequently any existing interfaces are being used and any problems with them that may strengthen the case or change. The result may also help identify the key issues that need to be resolved in order for an interface solution to be created, right? Well, figuring out what you need, why you need it, and how you need it, and for who you need it, who's going to be using it, who has the authority, and all that shit. That's basically what they're talking about. Secondly, we conduct interface identification. Business analysts identify what interfaces are needed in the future state for each stakeholder or system that interacts with the system. The relationship between stakeholders and interfaces could be many-to-many, or in some cases one-to-one. Some interfaces may be less obvious or less frequent, such as an interface used for regulatory functions for auditing. That's probably like once a month or once a year, right? Like, if I want to audit shit, I kind of like need one interface every once in a while. For employee training, for example, look at it this way. I'm building a platform where every small business kind of has access to its own community, its own profile, but it also has back office access. So the back office access, like how many times are they going to edit their profile? Once a month maximum if they want to update something. But I have actually a different interface for the data, which they would access once a day, once a week, depending on how often clients come or how often transactions happen. So the two separate interfaces, one like once a month if they have to update something, while the other side they have to do something that's basically like maybe once a day, once a week. Use cases are very important, so that's how we identify. Identified interfaces can include interfaces from solutions other than operational solution. For each interface, business analysts describe the function of the interface, assess the frequency of the interface usage, evaluate which type of the interface may be appropriate, and elicit initial details about the interface. Defining the interface requirements. Requirements for an interface are primarily focused on describing the inputs and the outputs from that interface, exactly what goes in and what goes out, and the messages in between if something goes wrong, because an interface does not return one thing. One input could return, well, the different inputs return different things, but ultimately like one is successful and the rest are not necessarily successful. But error handling is also important when it comes to interfaces, because miscommunication, what do we do with that? How do we handle that? And protocols in there. There may be a larger number of possible interaction types of which need to be specified. Interactions may be triggered by special or alternate flow of inputs and outputs in the business solution, or by exceptional events such as failures. Business analysts consider who will use the interface, what information is passed over the interface, and when and where the interface takes place. The interface defines user workflow between systems, user roles, and privileges, and any management objectives for the interface. Interface definition is dependent upon usability guidelines such as accessibility requirements or general workflow requirements. I can't create an API or an interface without actually having it fit what we're working with. And that's how people get hacked. Right, like you open a fucking profile page, for example, and you kind of see I don't know, you see like not what you want to see, whether it is bad. I don't know. Okay, 1 second. Every once in a while, basically, you enter access a website that kind of like is not doing what it says it wants to do. And the reasoning for that is potentially just the fact that every website, what did I do? My bad. The reasoning for that is potentially every website actually like allows for a certain integration. What do I mean integration? Every website allows for there has interfaces left and right, and sometimes people kind of like try to access them, and that's what hackers do. And that kind of access, sometimes they kind of like just fuck around. Sometimes they access to fuck around. Sometimes they access to kind of like get information or just get access to your information. But mostly it's fucking around, because a lot of times you get websites with kind of like, I don't know, it was like bad imagery or just deleted shit or like awkward CSS and shit, awkward styling. In order to identify any major design issues, interfaces between solutions or process components, and people require detailed analysis of the interface to be conducted up front. And the definition includes the name of the interface, the coverage or span of the interface, the exchange method between two entities, the message format, and the exchange frequency. These are all, by the way, the reason I'm understanding them very quickly is because I code. So like I do that all the time. Like you give it a name and be like, okay, anytime I'm gonna call this function, like, right? Like anytime I'm gonna call, anytime I wanna call this guy, I have to put in this number. So the phone is an interface, and every person has an assigned number, which means like, you reach them through that phone. That's in the interface of your the message format is word or written language. Like I can send you a fucking message in Chinese, but like, would you be able to read it, right? Like the message format, like what am I reading? Especially when it comes to data. An exchange frequency, like do we do this once a month, once a week, once a day? I don't know. What are the considerations? Strengths: by engaging in interface analysis early on, increased functional coverage is provided. Clear specification on the interface provides the structured means of allocating requirements, business rules, and constraints of the solution. Every interface should represent the values and everything that a business has to do. And due to its broad application, it avoids over-analysis of fine detail. Amazing. What are the limitations? Does not provide insight into other aspects of the solution, since the analysis does not assess the internal components. An interface is not really a solution. It's a way to connect to the solution. It's not really a solution, right? So it doesn't provide insight onto the other aspects of the solution, since the analysis does not assess the internal components, right? It just assesses how we're doing it, not what comes out of it, or not the value of what comes out of it. Hey, all right, guys.